time of the week they began. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, it's Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear, just plus the world's best quiz. Carbs, PWA, we're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards or a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.
Another week in the windsurfing world, and bloody hell, I was not expecting that when I got up yesterday. Paul? Well, what is the news? Just for anyone who doesn't know, maybe people don't follow social media. They might not even know. This could be the first video they've seen about it. Marc Pare dropped by Duotone. That is some of the biggest news that I literally I've heard for a long time. I just didn't see it coming, like actually out of the blue. Paul, what's your take on this?
Well, that was my shocked face, in case anyone was wondering what that was about. But yeah, exactly the same. I woke up this morning. My friend Sam said, "Oh, did you hear what happened to Marc Pare?" And then I saw your message, and then I went onto social media, and there it was, a comment from Duotone Windsurfing, which I can read out for everybody listening. So we have here, at the end of this 2023 season, unfortunately, we will be parting ways with one of our team riders. Decisions like these are not made easily, and we are sad to no longer be working with Marc Pare. The industry is facing a critical time, and unfortunately, some difficult decisions have been made. We want to thank Marc for his endless support and hard work during his years at Duotone, and we wish him the very best for his career ahead.
Now, I will say they are getting smashed on social media. Smashed, because obviously this is a massive shock. For people who don't know, don't follow the wave sailing, Marc Pare, for me, I'm a big fan. I'll come out there and say it. I'm a good friend as well. I spoke to him yesterday, just in case you don't know. I've already spoke to him. Also, I need to cover this. He is coming on the podcast, but I said I'll give him a few days, let things settle down just a little bit. There's going to be a bit of speculation. That's not a bad thing. And then we're going to bring him on and we're going to do a full chat. But I have spoke to him. I've got a bit of the lowdown, got some news. And just before you all get too comfy, I think we're going to see some other bombshells dropping. So, you know, and this is just the state of the market at the moment. If you've been following Windsurfing.TV social media, and obviously Paul Van Bellen is probably the guy who is stirring the pot, so to speak. I think me and Paul have got just a different view on stuff. If you saw the recent post with, like, some people get it, most people get it, some people don't get it. And the post is Marc Pare's face on a kite surfing chick with a G-banger on, and basically saying he's coming back to Duotone. Obviously, irony, like it's kind of like dark humor, because the thing is, if he was a kite surfer, probably in a G-banger, and was doing what he was doing, he probably would still have his sponsorship, which is the scary thing. But the bigger scary thing is the windsurfing industry at the moment, for professional riders especially, is very, very difficult. Very difficult. The brands have to make the bottom line to pay for the riders. There's been an increased tour. There's lots more events. There's lots more money going out. But this guy is one of the most up-and-coming riders. For me, he's not just riding. He's not just making results. He's doing trips. Like, if you see his latest Iceland video, he's doing the testing. If anyone has been on Maui, they will know how much work he's done into the testing. And this thing was a bit of a shock to him. So it wasn't like he saw it coming. It was a little bit like money got dropped. Then it probably got dropped again. And then it got to a point where they were like, look, we don't even want to offer you what we can offer you. So that's kind of the state of play. So at the moment, he doesn't have sponsors for next year. He is open. So this is, first speculation is, where can he go? Where could he go? Where would you like him to go? We're going to go through comments on social media. We're going to go through your comments. Like I said, we're going to see some big changes coming up. Maybe at Windsurfing TV too, because, you know, we're going to be affected here. You know, you don't think the brands are going to go, oh, well, maybe do we need to support Windsurfing TV? Why do we even need to? You know, what are those guys doing? You know, so I know there's certain riders from the freestyle world, because I've seen comments and stuff, and they're like almost having to go at me for kind of bringing up stuff. But we're a windsurfing channel. We talk about windsurfing. We have a laugh at my own expense, at everything's expense. That is just life. If you cannot just kind of almost look at life like that, you're not going to get through. You're not going to get out alive. In fact, we all don't get out alive, do we? So yeah, that's kind of the first summary. So we are getting Marc in. It might be in a couple of days' time, but it will be in probably within the next week. But hopefully in a couple of days' time. So we will be getting like word from him. But this show is a bit of speculation, a bit of talking about the industry, because we know it's difficult. You guys are out there. You guys are buying the equipment. You can just ask yourself, how much equipment have I bought this year? You know, and the probably answer is you've bought less, because that's what the brands are feeling. You know, mountain bike sales are down. Everything's down. Winging is probably up because it's a new sport. It's still riding that first wave of people getting into the sport. And as we had Guy Cribb on the channel last week, he was kind of saying there's two of the same for him. So the crossover is like, do I need to buy new windsurfing equipment now, or do I want to get on the rung of the ladder for winging? And that is probably took a bit of a chunk of the windsurfing, you know, money in, plus everything else that's going on in the world. But like I said, I know at Windsurfing TV we're going to be affected. I've definitely lost a lot more beer money this year. Whether we're doing a shit job here and people don't like it, I don't know. Or whether it's just the state of life right now. So Paul, what you reading? What have you seen on social media? What's your take on it?
Well, I think the overriding feel is that people are obviously surprised, because I'm taking that Marc Pare is a very popular sailor. You know, he's very popular. He's got a good image. He sails incredible. There's no doubt he's done great things for the brand, as you said, in development. So I think people are just surprised that, you know, a sailor of that caliber gets dropped by a brand. But as you said, it is a state of the market at the moment due to various reasons. You know, this comment here from Job, so I thought that's worth talking about. Is he okay? You spoke to him? I actually spoke to him today too, but what was your take?
I spoke to him for a long time yesterday, and he's good. He's disappointed because he saw his future and how he was trying to build with the brand. You know, like I said, anyone who's been on Maui will know how much he's been testing and how much until the last bit. You know, this was kind of a late decision as well, which you know, they're disappointing. So for people who are not in the industry, people who don't know, usually if you're gonna get kicked out of a brand or you're going to leave or whatever, usually in Silt in Germany, because it's usually the last event of the year, is where stuff kind of happens. People start talking about it. They say, look, we've had a tough year, probably going to have to let you go or drop your money. And it gives you a bit of time to talk to other sponsors. But I guess when you hear, like, well, probably a couple of weeks ago, he heard it's at the end of the year and everyone's had a tough year. And like I said, I can't give anything away, but there's other big names going from different brands. You like just keep your eyes out, because you know it is tough at the moment. It is tough, and you know you've got smaller brands, and that's what we have to see. We've got smaller brands, we got bigger brands. Duotone, big brand, big corporate brand. You know, big company above them. People working for them. And then you've got the smaller brands where the owners are really part of the brand. You know, I would say Dave Ezzy, it would be classic because his name's Ezzy, you know, Ezzy Sales. You know, if he has to make a decision, he's making the decision. It's not up to the marketing budget. Whereas someone like Duotone, I would guess they have a marketing budget. They go, right, well, the marketing budget this year is this. We got to get rid of 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever it might be. And they have to find ways of getting rid of that, and usually to get rid of something like a big chunk, again, this is me paraphrasing into things that I'm guessing, but it's not rocket science to work it out. They have to get rid of some big chunks of money, and the easiest way is to get rid of a big rider because that goes. We've also then got to talk about, you know, how long have people got on contracts, and this is the difficult thing with windsurfing, and I've always said this from day one, like, and I feel like if you compare it to football or something like this, which is impossible to do. But when a footballer signs a contract, if they're old, maybe they sign a 1-year extension deal or something like that, because at the end of their career is nearly gone. But usually in the early days, a footballer signs a 5-year contract or a 3-year contract. You know, it's a 5-year. And then after, let's say after 3 years into their 5-year contract, they renegotiate. So they've always got time left. So you're never left on the hook. Whereas windsurfing, and I've seen it through my whole time, you know, obviously I've never been, I mean, I've won a World Cup, I've won national events, I've been up there, you know, in events, but I've never been like world champ a lot of times, or, you know, like a big name. But those contracts sometimes are just rolling 1-year contracts. And at the end of the year, and it's like, bloody hell, it's not very relaxing. So when I spoke to other riders in the past, I said, what you need to do is negotiate more than a 1-year contract. So the best thing to do, negotiate a 2-year contract. And then at the end of the first year, you renegotiate an extra year on the end of the other year. You know, if you're an up and coming rider, that could go against you because you could have a really good year, you know, and then you're like, shit, I've still got that lower contract for next year. So it does have swings and roundabouts, but it also gives you a bit extra. So yeah, but as I said before, Marc Pare, he's in good spirits. That was a long way of answering the question. He's obviously not happy. He's disappointed. He thought that's there. But like any person in life, if you're going to make it through, you accept what it is. It feels a bit shit at first, but then you have to move on. You know, he will know he's a good sailor. He knows he's got potential world champion in him. He will know he's done all the right video things. He's done the testing. He's got so much to offer a brand. He is not going to be on the floor for long. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be people after him. It's just now is in this industry, in this world we're in right now with professional sports. Where is the market? What's the market price for someone like that? Because we know what he deserves. It's up here, but that doesn't mean you're going to get what you deserve. Whether you know, like I might think I'm worth fucking 100 grand. I might go, I'm worth 100 grand a year. But if no one will pay that and they'll only pay fucking 5 grand, it's like I'm worth 5 grand. I'm not worth what I think I'm worth. And this is the problem. You're only worth what the market's going to pay you. And the problem is professional windsurfing. You've got to do a tour. So you've got to do a tour. You've got to train. You've got to live somewhere. And if you're trying to do that as a professional sport, it's bloody difficult, because just to do the tour and travel around and live a lifestyle of a windsurfer costs a lot of money, you know? So, you know, and again, I've said this before in posts when I got a bit of shit for reposting some of your stuff. It's the reality. If you know, and I know Mark would be a classic example. If he wasn't a professional windsurfer, he would still be probably doing what he's doing now. He would have a side job. He'd be still trying to be the world champion, because that's how he is. He's motivated to be world champion. He's not doing it for the money. So now it's just finding out, okay, how do we generate that money? And, you know, funnily enough, that post that you put on with the bikini G-banger with Mark's head on it, you know, I'm not calling anyone out. Like, I think you have to use your own attributes, whatever that might be, to make the money on however you see is well, there we go. You know, and you know, not being, she probably doesn't get the most money from Duotone. But you know, that's it. She would make money modeling. She would make money whatever. She gets the views. You can say what you want, but the internet like that picture. You know,
when you say she, you're talking about Mark or the person behind Mark?
You know, actually, I put Mark's arse on the last 2 Sundays. I lost viewers, I lost subscribers, and I lost beer money. I was thinking, man, they're not even into the, you know, where's the equal equality?
I actually felt I felt a bit guilty putting this up. I tend to push boundaries a little bit sometimes, and I thought, oh, to hell with it, I'm just going to put it up. And I rang Mark as well to make sure he doesn't hate me. And thankfully, he has a great sense of humor. He thought it was funny. So good on you, Mark, you legend.
But it's true. They're not getting rid of kiters and wingers right now. You know, we've got to face the facts. That's the cold, harsh truth. And it's the same. I keep saying it. It's the same here at Windsurfing.TV. I've been saying to my girlfriends, you know, we got a baby this year. We're trying to do the house up. I'm like, be ready for next year, because there's going to be less money. I can feel it. I can feel the industry. I can feel what's happening. And people have been saying to me, are you going to go into winging? My dad's like, well, you should. I'm like, I'm not going into winging. I'm not making winging videos. That's just not my thing. I will do it until if we can't make money doing Windsurfing.TV, I'll probably do it as a real side thing. But I'll just have to get a job. If that's how it went, if that's how my life went, that's reality. You can only, and that's the same for riders. You can only do, and you can only go in the market you're in. In an ideal world, you have some side sponsors. That's where the money is. The money is not really in the brands. Yes, you can have quite a good chunk of money from the brands, but you imagine how much you have to make from a brand if that's your only sponsor to live like in a house, keep everything, travel around the world, do events, do everything. It's a lot of money to do that properly, and then to have money to live like a normal person. It's you could get a normal job and earn way more. It's crazy.
With this whole topic of people have been asking, oh, why how can they not sponsor him, and industry, what's going on? I have an unnamed source here that's giving me a bit of insider, I guess, knowledge of what it's like at some of these brands. And this is the answer I got. There's a financial crisis currently in the world, which people think about every day when it comes to living. And then they seem to forget about how it could affect their favorite industry, even though they haven't bought new gear in the last 5 years. Windsurfing equipment sales are down, while the cost to produce gear and inflation is crazy. So drastic measures had to be made to keep numbers in line. There's a lot of people being fired this year. This is just the first one that's public. So there you go. That's someone working within the industry. So
I just had a message. They are getting rid of kiters. So there you go. So, it's not just windsurfing. And I can tell you that from listening around the market, mountain biking, surfing, all the industries that did really well in COVID are feeling that kind of hit after it, I think. And a lot of people have overstocked. I think that's also happened. They were doing so well in the COVID years, and it's kind of not carried on at all. In fact, it's gone the total opposite way.
Can I bring up this little controversial one maybe for you? And weird how they wouldn't drop Victor instead. Love Victor, but Marc is the future while Victor is past his prime. Shocking.
Well, I think it could be down to contracts, what's already signed and what's already done. But again, like Victor's a top rider. They've also got some young riders as well, and like I said, I will try and get an official take from Duotone, but it pretty much says it in the press release. They had to make some cuts. That's it. It's like I say, they're run by a bigger organization above them. So they go, okay, what's the marketing budget? The marketing budget is this. You have to get all your riders in this budget. And they're like, we can't. You go, okay, we have to get rid of someone. And you look at the contracts, who's up for renewal, who's still got contracts, and you're like, okay, these are the ones that we could potentially get rid of because these contracts are up. Okay, that one won't even get near the budget. If we get rid of them, and we get rid of them, and get rid of them, we're still not even near the budget. We've got to get rid of this much money. It's like, we're going to have to get, and don't get me wrong, there's no way Duotone wanted to do this. The guys that work at Duotone, there's no way in the world, if you ask them now, I will 100% say there's no way they went, oh yeah, thank goodness he's gone. That's not happening. That's not happening. It's just, okay, we've got to make some decisions. I mean, there was an interesting comment I saw from Ricardo Campello, which, it said a lot of points about it. But there was a comment in the middle that said, but what about all the good years that Marc's been with you? Can't you use a bit of that money in this year? And that's the thing with those big businesses. It doesn't quite work like that. It doesn't roll over. Whereas and again, I'm guessing a little bit here, but I think it's based on kind of previous knowledge and being in the industry. If there was a Mr. Duotone, let's say, if there was a Mr. Duotone and he had a couple of good years and he gets on well with Marc, he might go, you know what? We're gonna get him through this year because I feel he's our future and we want to keep him on. But with those other companies, it's literally numbers. And that is where we're seeing the difference. Again, if I've got that wrong, I apologize. Feel free, Mr. Duotone, to come and tell me that. But I don't see how I think that is how it is.
Yeah, well, I can read this Ricardo comment if you like for anybody listening on Spotify or whatever. But so yeah, Ricardo, this is on the Duotone Instagram page. There's quite a few comments. We thought we'd go through a few. Ricardo Capello said, "What a shame! The best guy in the new generation, soon to be world champion, one of the most dedicated and most complete windsurfers on tour. Besides all the hours and hours he spends testing your gear to make it better and even sacrificing an amazing session at Hokipa to go test at Kanaha. Besides all the content and videos he has been giving you because of one bad year, what about the good years the company has? This is so wrong. I'm sure you will regret this soon. I'm so sorry, Marc Pare, but don't let anyone put you down. Keep it up." 165 likes. We've got Morgan Rowe has commented on that. "It feels like we're getting close to the end of professional competitive windsurfing, even if Marc Pare can't get paid." Well, that's
I mean, like I said, like I have been posting this. I can see it coming. You can feel it coming. It's not a shock. This is, I have to say, Mark leaving Duotone is a massive shock. I actually just had confirmation of Duotone. What I said before is pretty much the situation. That's exactly what happened. You got to get rid of the bud. That's it. And there's not really any way around it when you're working in that type of structure. So, I mean, it's absolutely shocking. It's sad, but it's also exciting. I know people go, "Oh, shut up, Ben. How's it exciting?" But it is. Where's he going? Who's going to take him? What's he going to do? It's like, I genuinely think it is interesting. Like these shakeups. It's like when you break up with a girlfriend or whatever. It's a disaster. You're crying. You think it's all over. You're never going to meet someone. But then you got the comeback. You got the going out to the nightclubs. You got the finding them, and then you find the right one in the end, and you live happily ever after, and you have loads of kids, and you've had the best life ever, and you didn't know that was going to happen. So I'm believing happy endings, and that sounds wrong. Yep, I mean, stories with happy endings. Just exactly.
No, you're good at them, but no, it's yeah, I agree. I was talking with a friend about this today as well, Ben. I think we're at a stage in windsurfing at the moment where we're transitioning from an older style of doing things or whatever, the way it's been done, to a new world, and the new world, like, in the past, you were a pro windsurfer, you did events, you got your sponsors, and that was kind of how it's done. Whereas what have we been seeing in the last few years? Which windsurfers have been getting the most attention and the most followers and whatever? It's basically content creators, essentially. I mean, like because brands are looking for people to help them sell product.
Yeah.
Why else would they sponsor anybody? And obviously Marc Pare has done a great job. They've got developed gear, and that's a super important job. But it's not just about being a good sailor anymore. In fact, arguably some of the biggest names in the sport are far from being the best. If you know what I mean, like with all due respect to guys like Nico Prian or I don't know, there's a few other people. Obviously, Nico Prian's a great sailor.
You got to have the balance. You got to have the respect of the sailors, which does help, but you really got to have the respect of the consumer. So Nico Prian is a great example because he's a really good sailor, and he was really challenging before he kind of took a step back and went down a different path. And now he's kind of charging to come back, but he's got it backed by social media and backed by his YouTube channel. And look at the power of that. He ain't getting dropped. There's no way. I'd be very shocked. But that's what shocks me about Pare leaving, because I genuinely think out of the wave sailing guys, he has been ticking the most boxes. If I look at the boxes he ticks as a potential sponsor, I go, okay, has he got the talent to be world champion? Yes. Is he good on both tacks? He's been putting the work in? Yes. Does he develop gear? Yes. Does he make videos? Yes. Is he doing more than he needs to do? Yes. You are ticking frigging nearly every box. So that's why it was a massive shock to me. I thought Duotone had gone all in and go, right, this guy is the future, whoever we're going to get rid of. But obviously they must be feeling it seriously to get rid of Mark. There's big stuff happening,
No, it's a good point. Yeah, you're not going to get a much better team sailor than a Marc Pare. It's, you know, it's almost as good as it gets, isn't it? So, which begs the question, because we've got a comment here back to Simmer. Any guesses where he may end up, or what will end up with him?
I obviously think he'd be very welcome at Simmer, but you know, like everyone, this is going to be the problem, because the year, maybe I'm leaving. Mark's coming in. You know, I'm sat here. I haven't negotiated a contract for next year. I'm pretty late like that. But, you know, they're the things that could happen potentially now. There might be guys without contracts or signed or anything. And then the brand goes, frick me, Marc Pare's up for grabs. You know, like, you don't get opportunities like this all the time where this free agent happens. But, you know, and again, I spoke to Mark as well. I don't want to give too much away, but we'll speak to him on the podcast. I think it's better that he answers most of his, you know, own questions, because I think there could be some interesting stuff that comes of this. Again, there's some sort of saying that goes with that. Every cloud has a silver lining and all this type of stuff. But there are brands out there. In the comments, let me know which brand you would like to see him sail on, you know, and then we'll kind of do what brand you think he would go to. But you know, or if they can be both, it doesn't matter, whatever you think. I'm just interested to see the general feeling, like what type of brand do you see him going? And does Marc Pare influence your buying? Because like you said before, Paul, that is the bottom line. And I've said this to a lot of young guys who ask for advice and we talk about sponsorship. I'm like, you might be the biggest ripper in the world, but if you're not influencing any market, then you're not worth anything. You know, you have to be able to influence a market. Now, top guys can influence a market from just ripping, but you've got to get traction. You have to get media coverage. And these days, a lot of it is on the sailor to do their own. You know, you have to be messaging. Like, I can count on one hand probably how many riders message me to get content in Windsurfing TV. It's so open to put Windsurfing TV content. If their brand supports the channel, I really should be having way more riders. I think, anyway, that's up to them. But I know the guys that do it, and they're all still, you know, doing all right. So I think that's interesting, because back in the day when it was just magazines, I'm writing to editors of magazines. I'm sending, you know, I'm going out, I'm hiring photographer to take pictures. We're putting like mass cams, board cams, these massive cameras on to get the shot, then send it to the editor. Do you need any shots this week? Where's your front cover lying? You know, do you need a front cover? How about this shot? Because if you make their job easier, if you give them help, they'll repay that. And that's the same for me at Windsurfing TV. Someone says, Ben, we want to put this video in. Can we help edit it? Can we do this? Can we do, you know, that's all up for negotiation. But if I have to come to every rider and try and work out what they're doing, it's pretty impossible. So the ones who are most proactive will get the most coverage. So I think that's quite interesting. And you'll probably be able to see which ones are the most proactive out there. But I'm also interested in what riders you guys take the most, what's the right word for that? Like, have the most influence, for want of a better word. Like, who is a good influence on your buying decision? Is it magazine tests? Is it riders? Because riders sometimes can go unnoticed. I think freestylers especially get the raw end of this, because they create an image for a brand. So they might not sell much freestyle gear, you know, in the whole big scheme of a brand. Whereas freestyle, wave, free ride, slalom, foiling, whatever, you know, freestyle, probably the smallest market. But the image they give a brand is I think is big. So you can influence a market and a brand name and a brand without having direct sales. It's kind of like if I have a link at the bottom of the video. We make a video here. We do some sort of talking about a brand like Insta360, for example. And I say, oh, yeah, you know, this camera's really good, whatever. And there's a link at the bottom. You might not buy it off that link at the bottom. But after a few videos like this and seeing the footage and seeing this, you know, someone says, what do you want for Christmas? Or your missus says that, or the husband, or whatever. You go, you know what? I have one of those Insta360 cameras. They're not going to click on the link, but their influence decision was from these videos. And I think that's where the freestylers get the raw deal, I think, because their Instagram clip, their short stuff is really good.
What do you think would you have any idea what your influence is on people buying simmer gear has been?
I answer a lot of emails and talk to a lot of people about stuff. So yeah, I would say it's pretty good. I mean, you still got to be. I mean, just looking at the comment here by Tavish saying influence like Nico Preen for me, doing lots of vlogs about anything settings racing, and I would agree with that because I can relate to that. Not so much in windsurfing, but I relate to it in other things like mountain biking or something that I follow, golf. And yes, I do play golf. I haven't played for ages, but I still watch the videos and it's quite a classic. But, if I've got I don't know the professional guys on the tour. And this is why I know there's a shift. It's why I shifted myself anyway, because I saw it in other things that I was interested in. And if you asked me to name the top 10 mountain bikers downhill in the world, I couldn't. You asked me to name the shows that I watch and the influencers that I watch, I know them all. You asked me in the golf, who's the best golfers in the world right now? I actually don't know. But if you ask me about the influencers I watch and what, I know. So that gives me an insight to how it might be in windsurfing. I'm a massive fan of windsurfing competition. I've grown up competing in all the different sports. I have a lot of respect for all the riders, which is why I try and support the tours as I do anyway, basically because I'm interested in it. And I think there needs to be more talked about because they sacrifice a lot. I know I did as a rider. You sacrifice a lot, which people don't realize. Yes, it's an amazing job and you're privileged to be able to get any money to live a lifestyle like that. Okay, you're not earning lots of money, but just to be able to live it. But you sacrifice normal life. You sacrifice being able to have a house. You sacrifice sometimes having a girlfriend. You sacrifice living in one place and building up a home friendship stuff. If you're traveling around the world, you can't do that. So there is a lot of things that people don't realize you sacrifice, but to be able to call yourself a professional windsurfer and to do the tour and to even live it at, even if you do a side hustle job to earn a bit of money, it is a massive privilege. And I think in the past maybe it's been taken for granted. And now you start to see it. It's such a privilege to do that and be able to challenge for this stuff. It's an amazing thing to be able to do. So again, for Windsurfing.TV, I do cover a lot of competitions. They're not usually the most viewed videos compared to the other videos, but I have, like I said, a lot of respect for that side of the industry.
Yeah, no, it's a brave new world. Definitely. I'm really curious to see how this plays out. I thought I'd just go through a few more comments here. What have we got? This is back on the Duotone Insta page. Jortica, is this a joke? If this is serious, it is not done right. Images are not well chosen. They should be a glorious video giving him respect. He makes Fanatic and Duotone bigger, and you are acting as if you're an intern. At least you could have let him say it first at his channel. Sadly, wrong Duotone. Obviously, there's a lot of people annoyed. It's a similar reaction when Fanatic went, isn't it? It's I think people are a bit shocked at the speed of the change.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of things happening for Duotone, and they were under quite a lot of criticism for, obviously getting rid of the Fanatic name, and then it's a little bit like a domino. And like I said, I think we're going to see maybe some more high profile riders. We're going to see stuff in the news. I think, like I said, nothing's concrete yet, but I have heard rumors that there will be a few moves. So yeah, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what gets announced. I think we should go to a few comments as well on the live.
Yeah. Well, if I can just quickly just talk about this one quickly before we get there. Black Project, which is a great brand, making fins and paddles and all sorts of things. It says, unfortunately, all brands face financial crisis at this time. It is hard to pay for equipment, travel, and salaries. Marc Pare is an amazing rider and hopefully has something new lined up for 2024. Don't criticize Duotone Windsurfing for being financially responsible. It's just the reality of a tiny sport and market. And Ricardo Campello has responded to that saying, but the guys at the office are still getting paid the same money, driving around in their Porsche probably. Well, I don't know about that. Do they drive Porsches?
It's not that simple, I don't think. But,
yeah. Anyway, what comments have we got here?
Well, there's a lot. I'm just looking at what brands they were saying. Like it would just be interesting to get an idea of what influences the market as well. I do like to see that sort of stuff because it's very rare. Like I used to like those questionnaire things. I know that not everyone fills them in, but they're always interesting because sometimes you get a little bit of a different look to what you think. Actually, Simmer are just doing their new stuff. Well, whatever, they have to think quite far ahead. So next year, colors and stuff. And you're thinking, you really want to ask the market because I would love to know what people's favorite color sale is. What it's quite interesting. So in terms of brands, what people saying, what are people looking at? Just
got a few for Simmer here.
yeah,
I mean, Simmer, Marc Pare what did sale for Simmer in the past, right? So
I know he's still got a good relationship with the Simmer boys. Yeah, you wouldn't count it out, but you never know. Like I know everyone, like I say, everyone's had a tough year. So,
God, there's a lot of comments. Everyone's got a bit of an opinion on this one. This one's also worth mentioning here. It's didn't the windsurfing industry have the best year ever during Corona? Well, that was my understanding, right, Ben? I mean,
yeah.
Corona happened. Everyone was stuck at home or whatever, and
so there are a few things with that. So yes and no. The demand was through the roof, but there was one slight problem: the problem of supply. So even though everyone was selling out of everything, they didn't have big stocks of everything. So as far as I understand, again, I don't want to put words in people's mouths and all brands are not the same, but a lot of brands, let's say, and this is in every industry, they sold out super quick and then they couldn't get restocked. And there was this massive backlog. And then from my understanding, the backlog then sort of comes in and then they're left now going, oh shit, we are overstocked right now. We have got way too much stuff and the demand obviously went down. So it's kind of like, it would have been better to have seen that just a steady, but it went bang and down, and that two things have not aligned. Again, I'm not working in the industry, but that's my understanding from speaking to people. They could have made a lot more money if they'd have had stock, if they'd have had supboards, if they'd have had this, if they'd have had that in those periods. But essentially, everyone sold out of everything. So then guys and brands, I assume in every industry, that had stuff that wasn't really in demand as usual, got in demand. So if you look at the mountain bike industry, let's say Specialized sold out of all their bikes, the guy that was going to buy a Specialized goes, oh, well, what's the next brand that I would have bought off? And then it kind of ripples down. So then everyone sells everything. And then you create this kind of false, I guess, like,
yeah, that makes sense. I mean?
So, yeah. Again, yes, they did have good years. I'm pretty sure. I just had a message before saying some brands are down, like marketing budget down by 50%. So let's say if you're down 50% on your marketing budget for next year, that's a massive amount of budget to cut. Massive. So
yeah. So basically, can we safely say that a fairly big chunk of this movement from the marketing budget or brands cutting back on their spending is due to them just focusing more attention into winging as well? I mean, a brand like Duotone, they're sort of looking at it going, we're selling, I don't know, 50% wings and 40% kites and 10% windsurfing. I don't know. I'm just making up a number, something like that. And they're just going, well, that's where we're going to put the money in.
No, I think it's different. Again, my understanding, feel free to correct me in the comments or if someone knows any different, but Duotone, although it's under the same name, everything's called Duotone, there is different divisions. So the kiting will have its own budgets and marketing, the windsurfing will have its own budgets and marketing, the winging will have its own budgets and marketing, and then Ion is parts of boards and more that will have its own budgets and marketing. It will probably be so. I'm pretty sure it's like that, and then it will go on what how much movement. So like I said to you before, if the owner was closer down the chain and involved, the owner could possibly go, you know what, we did really well in winging. Let's, windsurfing has helped build up our reputation in winging. We kind of owe it to windsurfing to keep more money in, you know what I mean? And I've seen that before, or I thought that before with a few brands who kind of jumped ship very quickly after starting their roots in windsurfing, which, okay, maybe it doesn't make business sense. But, like when you are close to that brand, I could see how it could work. like maybe they made a shitloads off winging. They go, okay, well, we'll put a bit more of that budget into the windsurfing. But, in those big companies, it doesn't work like that. In their eyes, it's like, what, the king is dead, long live the king. There's another one. That's how it works. That's how it rolls over. When you see these famous footballers and they leave, you're like, you're never going to replace him. And then another one comes up. But in windsurfing, we're so small. It's so like, it feels just wrong, doesn't it? You all kind of feel like family, and you buy into these characters like, people will be doing, and that's why you're seeing the comments on social media and the kind of uproar, because they're backing Marc. They're like, wow, how can you do that to him? And then there's something I've been thinking of for ages, is someone else said it, like, outside sponsorship is the key. And it's true. We probably shouldn't be relying on brands. If you are a sponsored rider, and I've said this to plenty of riders in the past when I've been handing out my advice, which you can take it or leave it, doesn't matter, but I've been in the industry a long time. If you're totally relying on a brand for your support, it's just a recipe for disaster. All your eggs are in one basket and in the same sport. So you have to be pushing to try and get these outside sponsors. And it doesn't even have to be big outside sponsors, but just some extra stuff from the outside. And if you look at most of the guys that are doing the tours, the French guys, the girls, they've got support from outside. Not all of them, obviously. But there's definitely, you need that. And it's not, then don't get me wrong, it is not easy. I've been there. I've been the one writing the letters. Back in my day, you had to hand write a letter, and I was photocopying pictures onto a piece of paper so it looked, because the computers wasn't even a thing where you photoshopped all this stuff together and emailed it. It was like, I'm waiting for a response in the post and maybe get a few free stickers back going, sorry, but we can send you a few free Mambo stickers or whatever it was. You're like, oh my God, and it is so easy now to self-market yourself. But I think that's also a problem. Again, this little bit off the Marc Pare thing, but the young guys coming up, you should listen to this, and I definitely believe it. Don't think that your own social media is the be all and end all. Like, you want to get that shit shared out. I'm obviously going to say that because I run Windsurfing.TV, but you've got to look at the potential reach of other platforms, World of Windsurf, Windsurf Journal, Windsurfing.TV, like all these, look at these avenues, look at magazines, they're probably not getting you guys sending pictures anymore. Like, literally, go hire your mate, get him a camera, build a water housing, do what you've got to do, get some pictures, start talking to editors. Again, this is nothing to do with Marc, because I believe he has just been there's a case of circumstance, because I think whatever he did, if I was looking in, and I've kind of given advice over the years, I believe he's ticking every box. I don't think there's a box he's not ticking. Apart from he has got a skinny ass. We saw that on the video.
He's got a bruised ass. I forgot about that. But yeah, and the thing is with Marc too, even though he is now no longer sponsored by Duotone, that something will happen with him as well, because he's too attractive to brands, really, isn't it?
It's probably going to come down to him as well, what he wants to do, because he's someone who will not rush into a decision. He isn't just going to jump on the first train out of there. Like, he's going to look, because I know him, he's young, but he's got kind of an old head on a young body. And he's looking future wise. He wants to build with the brand. And I believe that's what he thought he was doing with Duotone. And this, like I said, this has like been a bit of a bang, like, whoa. So I am interested where his next move's going to be. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, shit news. I'm not laughing about it, as some people said, why? Because I posted that thing, but that's just the reality. I mean, you've got to laugh at life. Like, that's how you move on. That's how you're able to get through. And like, he will 100%. And I'm excited for those next steps. So yeah.
Oh, this is a comment here from Maddie Claire. It doesn't really help that the season pinnacle event was only broadcast via WhatsApp videos. Yeah, well, I know. Yeah. But
I mean, okay, if we want to open this up, you've got other things at play here as well, and I've said this before in the past, everyone's banging on about having a bigger tour. We need to go here. We need to go there. And I'm like, can the industry, as the sponsorship kind of system works at the moment, which is most riders get a lot of their budget or most of their budget or sometimes all their budget from the brands, can it sustain a tour like that? Can it? It's like Fiji, Maui, you know, like it's amazing. Don't get me wrong, but you work out a budget. Like someone tell me how much you would want. This is actually an interesting one. So for anyone who's listening right now live, in the comments below, tell me, look at your job now, look at your situation. Maybe you've got a wife, maybe you've got a girlfriend, house, you know, maybe you've got a husband. You look at this situation, go, right, how much do I need to live, right? Then work out how much to do all those events, and then what equipment budget you would want, like how many boards, how many sails, work out a rough budget of what you would want from a brand to do that and to live a normal life, not just to do the tour, but to live a normal life where you're like, okay, I'm not flash, I'm not doing anything crazy. I've got a small rent, which is quite a lot these days, but a rent or a small mortgage or whatever. You've got a house and you can support, you know, a normal life. How much do you think you need? You will be shocked at how much it is.
Oh yeah.
Like, and when you hear some of the riders, the salaries they're getting, you realize that, is it professional windsurfing right now? You know, I believe, and again, some people have said, oh, Ben, but I don't believe it is. I believe these guys, most of them are doing it because they want to be world champion. They are like, you know, some guys are doing okay, but most of them are doing it because they really want to be the best they can be in windsurfing. They want to live that windsurfing dream. But after a certain age, that becomes really difficult. Like I had to make that decision. I was really late to the wave sailing party. I was never going to be world champion. I could have been better than I was. Then I had a few injuries. And then there's this decision. And this is when you posted that thing about that girl, you know, saying she didn't want to get a job. It just brought me back. It brought me back to my, like, I always said to my dad, because he's like, what the hell are you going to do? I'm like, don't worry, Dad, we're fine. He's like, yeah, but what are you going to do? Like, you haven't done anything. I'm like, don't worry, it's going to be fine. And I always said to him, look, I've got my savings, which I'd earned, you know, working and whatever. I was like, soon as I start taking money from anything that I'm not, like, as soon as I'm taking my extra money, then I'm done. That's a sign that it's not sustainable. If I can live a lifestyle, if I can go around the world, if I can enjoy myself, I'm going to class this as my retirement. This is going to be my like retirement, because it's not really work to me. Even though it's work, it's so fucking fun. I would do it for free. So like if you can sustain it without spending any money, you win it. So I was like, right, that's my retirement. I don't know how many years I'm going to get of retirement here. And then I'll have to get a job when I'm older. Maybe I don't make it, so it doesn't really matter anyway. So I was like, fuck it, that's what I'm doing. So then I tried, I pushed hard. I was like doing doubles, doing push forwards. And I was like, yeah. Then I got injured. And then I was like, fuck, this is not really going to work. You know, there's not enough money in this sport to do this. So then I started doing more media because that was a better way to get more promotion, to get more money. And then that, you know, linked into what I'm doing now, which again, who knows how long this is going to last? Who the fuck's paying beer money? Why are you paying? You know, you don't have to. It's a voluntary thing. So it's, you know, the brands, how many people are going to support us this year? Why would they support us? They don't have to. And that's the thing with windsurfing. It's very small, very niche. I love it. I love the scene. I love the people in it. And we do have to stick together, but we have to be able to laugh at ourselves sometimes and call out the fucking, irony of some of these things. It's bonkers. It's bonkers. Like, you know, a lot of these windsurfers that are crossing over to winging and doing winging, I'm not saying they shoot themselves in the foot, but it doesn't help in a weird way. But that's just life. You can't protect something. It naturally, organically will go whichever way it goes. I believe anyway. Again, these are just my ramblings, maybe.
Yeah, well, you've been someone that's been really good at adapting, because look at you, Ben. You've had a huge impact on windsurfing. You know, here we are with 300 people at the moment listening to you and me as your sidekick. So I mean, you've done well, man. Actually, on this whole topic of getting supported, what's it been like for Windsurfing.TV? Have you noticed any, I don't know, drop off or anything in your support? Yeah,
I definitely. This year, I've definitely had like cancellations on the beer money, you know, and people messaging me going, look, I really like the channel, but I'm not really windsurfing much. I'm going more winging now, so I'm not watching so much. Because I write to a few people when they cancel. Every so often, I send a few emails out to go, like just to get, like I said, no problem. Massive thanks for your support over the last year or years or whatever it's been. But just interested why you don't want to pay. Like, again, it's not a loaded question. It's just really for market research to understand. Do you not like the content? Do you want to see something different? Do you, and a lot of them were, honestly, it was like, I'm kind of winging. I'm surfing now a bit. And some of them just saying, look, it's just a shitty situation. Like, I get some replies like, I'm getting divorced. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was a joint account. And then you start going, oh God, why did I even ask? I should have just, let. But it's interesting. You need knowledge. You need to know what's happening, which is why I think it is good to see the comments, to read people, and it's very important that you guys at home also express what you want to see, what you want to do. Marc Pare, like I said, I can't remember. I didn't see what the answers were, but how much does he influence your buying? Like, if you try and imagine, okay, but maybe he has, because you see this and the gear's looking good, and sometimes it'd be a combination of riders that give this image to the sport, and again, sometimes it can be the influence. Someone said they bought an Insta360 because of me, and I genuinely believe that's the truth, because I've done that with mountain biking. I've watched a video with someone testing some pedals or something, and they explain exactly why they work, and you can see that something happens, and you go, "Fuck yeah, why not? I'll buy them." They were good. So
yeah, I think. Yeah, I was going to say, I think Duotone as well have actually done a really good job on the image. Everything, the whole branding of it is actually, it's very slick. It's clear. So they have definitely done a good job of creating that brand and making it what it is. So that's, hats off them to that. This is an interesting comment here. Try and pronounce that first name. Uber Ajara. Yeah, Santos, the global economic outlook is bad. The problem is not just the decline of windsurfing. I went into a windsurf shop in Florida and the attendant said windsurfing is dead. Very sad.
A windsurfing shop said that. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well, maybe it's probably not just a windsurf shop. I doubt it's probably kite and, obviously winging and everything. But, I mean, obviously at the moment we're seeing a lot of interest going towards winging. But I don't necessarily, I think this could have a silver lining as well, because a lot of people are going to come into winging, and then that will also, I think, help windsurfing as well at some point, because I think a few people will, give it a go through that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I've got a feeling. So. Huh? You don't think so?
I totally think so. I don't think foiling is for everyone. I just don't think it's for everyone. Like, not everyone wants to be foiling. I get why people like it. I'm not dissing it. Again, people get me wrong, like, because I have a little bit of a go at kiting and winging. I've got no problems with them. I have kited for a while. I've won some events kiting. I have winged, and I do wing, and I've got some gear. But windsurfing is my sport. And that's not because I've got Windsurfing.TV. It's just, that's me. If someone says, what do you do? I'm not a waterman. I go surfing, I go winging, but I'm definitely not a waterman. I'm a windsurfer. That's it. Like, that's my identity, I think. So I kind of totally get it. And I've been speaking, I'm going to put a video on the channel, and you're going to be shocked, and you're probably going to give me loads of shit. But this could be the new thing. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Windsurf fishing.
Is that new?
We are combining the two sports. It's not new at all, but we're going to make it come back. This is like fishing. Look at the freaking views on that shit. No, I've got a friend here, Justin. I've got a few videos from him that we're going to put on. He's kind of made them for us, but I'm going to put them on the channel. You're all laughing. You're all laughing. You wait. This is it. Trawling behind a windsurfing board. You get to go out. You do that. You catch some fish. Everyone's happy. You don't have to go out. You don't need any wind. You need a little tiny bit of wind. Is
this your solution to make windsurfing great again? Windsurf fishing, windsurf trawling. I think, look, the other thing I'll say about the winging thing, I mean, obviously, winging and windsurfing is a fair bit different. I'm trying to think of someone who would take up winging who's never windsurfed before, and then it would be a bit of a leap to go from winging to windsurfing. However, I do think that at least it keeps the people engaged with windsurfing because they'll see it at a spot. And that's, I guess it remains to be seen how much that does affect it. But at least winging, from my point of view, is closer to windsurfing than kiting is.
Yeah, no, like I said, I totally get it. And again, people get me wrong on this. I get it. I got nothing against people who go winging.
Sure.
Especially because they fuck off down the line miles ahead of you, and they don't leave any trail, and you can ride behind them. Because where we went the other day, the secret spot, IKEA, there was quite a few wingers out there, to be honest with you. And I had a moment where I went, oh shit. This is going to be a disaster. Those things, when you're wobbling around, are flying around. They're going upwind faster. They're jibing on every wave. They're getting back out. They're riding like three waves. But the good thing is, at the moment, they're all pretty low level in terms of, they haven't spent 20 years windsurfing. But after like 5-10 years, maybe they get more radical and closer to the lip, and then it's a bit shit. But at the moment, they're quite far down the line. But it was interesting to see them in operation. And there was a few kites out as well. If you've seen Send It Sunday, you will know. That was still my funniest. When I watched that GoPro video, I wasn't even expecting it. I was just watching it. And you should, if you know that guy, it makes it so much funnier. So much funnier. Like, he wouldn't say, was it in English? He wouldn't say boo to a goose. He wouldn't, he'd never raise his voice or anything. It's just so funny, his outburst. If you haven't seen Send It Sunday, you should check out Send It Sunday. Kite surfer, jumping a windsurfer.
Yeah, I don't think windsurf. I mean, I don't know about everywhere everybody else is in the world, but I certainly don't see windsurfing as dead. In fact, if you're wondering, or in case you haven't heard, in Perth, we've got the Windsurfer Worlds coming up, which is close to where I am at the moment. There's 300 people entering, which I was actually told that in 1984, when the last World Championships were held in Perth for the windsurfer, they had 250 people, and this time they got 300. So they've actually got more entrants in 2023. What year are we in? Than 1984. It's kind of interesting.
What is interesting, I saw a post, I think, was it a comment on the video when I was talking, or maybe it was on our last podcast when we were talking about the Windsurfing Worlds. And Bill Short said, oh, it's just nostalgia. You got to get with the program, kind of that kind of feeling. But I was like, there's nothing wrong with nostalgia, is there? Like, I think if you look at old school windsurfers, like, what is windsurfing? It's just about getting a group of friends together, going sailing, doing whatever you do. And everyone's got their own different things. Some people like to sail on their own. I've never been that person. Honestly, that's just not me. I'm much in it, more in it for obviously the sport, but definitely the social aspect and sharing it with other riders. Don't get me wrong. I don't want hundreds and hundreds of riders, but a couple of mates is the fun sessions. But when I used to race, the racing was part of it, but also the banter, the piss taking, all that bit that goes around racing. And I used to love it. I still love it. You can see it on social media. There's got to be a bit of piss taking, a bit of banter, a bit of, like I say, I keep saying it, but we can't take ourselves too seriously. We don't want to be this boring sport. Yeah, we might all be old bastards, but we don't need to be serious old grumpy bastards, do we? We can be the fun granddads of the sport.
Yeah,
why not?
Definitely. No, you might as well. Why not create that culture where it's fun? People get more attracted to it. But getting back to the original points, because we are talking about Marc Pare, we might as well have a quick look through some of these comments of what people think he may end up in. I've got here Henning. I'll just go through it quickly because there is a lot. Henning, he thinks Taboo Gastra, Stefan Nash, Ali, Challenger Sales and Italian custom boards.
Okay, let's stop there. So just out of those ones, Nash came on. They obviously just got bought. I don't know who bought them. Someone in the Netherlands, I think. And I obviously they were supporting the channel at that point. So I wrote to them, said, "Hey guys, just said you bought the channel. What's going on?" They went, "No, we're stopping all marketing. Done." So I was like, "Okay." So they literally went, "Okay, see you later," without even looking at whatever, So I was like, okay. So wouldn't count on Nash right now, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so
but usually it's an indication, those feelings I get.
Challenger, Italian
Challenger,
custom boards.
it's a very small niche racing brand. They obviously have wave sails. They do all right, but it's a smaller market. Their bigger market is the racing, and they've got some pretty big names in the racing. So, could they find the money for Pare? Would be difficult, I would say. If you've got Duotone drop-in, people like that, I think a small, but you never know, if there's some other investment in, and you said Taboo Gastra before. Again, they got Thomas Traversa. They're going to look and go, okay, do we need someone? Maybe, it could be an option. Who else have they got on the team? They got Takuma Sugi. They've got some young riders coming through. Quattro Goya, surely they're fully booked. They got Marino Gill, Levi Siver, Brown, to name a few,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Difficult.
0.7.
Yeah.
Yeah, possible.
Yeah.
Iago is saying, what's he saying? He has a point, but my gut feeling is he's going to end up in Goya. Okay. Well,
I don't see how they would have the extra budget to take on a Pare.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've got the world champ as well. You've got to remember they've got the world champ. He lives in Maui. He's working with them daily.
Yeah.
It's like where if you're going to pay someone like Pare, he's got to be your top rider. He's not going to be the understudy to Marsilio Brown. Again, I'm not Goya, so I'm just going through my head like the first things that come out of my head. If you're Pare, it's like if you go to a brand, you want to be the top dog. You want to have influence over the boards. You want to have influence over the sales, if that's what it is. If you go to someone like Goya at the moment, you're going to be underneath Brown. Yeah, there's room for, younger guys pushing through because maybe they grow into it. But if you're already at that point where you're challenging, I think you're going to want to do your own thing.
You would sort of, if you're a betting man, you'd probably put it more on a more Euro-centric brands, I would have thought. I mean, because you think of Quattro Goya, you tend to think of Maui or people living on Maui or something as well, right? I mean, that's the bulk of their team riders. We've got here Starboard Severn. A few people have said that. RRD.
I have just heard. I've heard from Starboard. I think they're stopping Windsurfing.TV. I haven't heard, but it was rumored. They're like, we've had a tough year. We might be, just to warn you, we're probably going to be not coming on next year. Like I said, I know it's coming. It's not a shock to me. I know that's how the world works. People have a tough year. You're going to lose some support.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting to hear. RRD, board and sales would be a great move if they have the budget.
RRD is an interesting one. Is an interesting one.
Yeah, this one's a little bit. Sorry. Yeah, we can say.
Yeah, no. I was just looking at the next one. Sorry. Go on.
Oh yeah, so this one's an interesting mix. Flickr, Ezzy, Decline. But I ride Ezzy, so I'd love to see Marc Pare and Ezzy. That'd be cool. Yeah. Ezzy. Everyone is saying
it's so difficult. It's so difficult because a lot of brands have got a top rider. So for Marc to come in, maybe someone will have to drop out. Otherwise, how do you afford it? And with it being late in the season, I think most contracts are already done. Like some people are saying Nash, but like, what do you do with Ricardo? And there is rumors at the moment that let's see. I'm like I said, I know what Nash said to me, so I don't know how far their cuts go. But it's like I said, it's going to be an interesting new year because, like I said, I do know that there's some riders going. Again, there's a few others that there's rumors, but nothing concrete yet. But there's going to be a few riders looking for a home, and there's not many homes to go to, to get what they want, because that's also the difference. It's like, will we see, not the first ever, but I can't remember a time where, did Rick Markham have something like this, where you have a sale with sponsor me on it, and it's literally like you haven't got sponsors. You're kind of like, like maybe you get an outside sponsor. Who's done that recently? Has someone done that where they totally like graphicked out the actual brand for a sponsor? Actually, the French guys have got a good sponsor. They've got that bed company or the pillow company, and they've got all their sales from Hot Sales Maui in black with the yellow, the Fleche brothers, I think it is.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting because that would be kind of cool. Like windsurfing is such a good sport for that. We've got a massive billboard. Yes, we're in the water, but we have this massive billboard we carry around with us. It's crying out for advertising, you know. I did think about it, and I literally thought about it, which is not a claim. I'm just saying about setting up like a website, which is kind of like a management site, but you have riders, and it's literally like a bit like what's that, Tinder or something like that. But you can basically see the riders' profiles, and there's different categories, and you can kind of bid for places on their sale. Because I think you guys at home who own companies, you do okay for yourself. I'm not saying you need to be multi-millionaires or anything like this, but you'd be surprised at what would get your logo or your support on one of these, you know, guys' sales. And I'm not talking everyone's got different prices. Like I say, it is what it is. But I think you'd be surprised for a couple of grand, you know, or grand, or, you know, whatever you could get on, depending what level you want to go to. But you could have these different categories, which I think would be interesting, because I think in windsurfing, nobody knows. Like, I always remember Bjorn telling me once, he goes, you know, I don't put a sticker on myself for less than 15 grand or 20 grand or something, which is like fucking high end. But he was Bjorn, and this was in his later years, so you can only imagine what it was in his younger years. But, you know, down that lower end, what's the minimum you put a sticker on your sail for? It's just a sticker. If you haven't got a sponsor, again, you've got to be careful. You don't want to undersell yourself, but there's definitely a world where you go, you know what would I do for 1,000, 2,000 euros, 5,000 euros, you know, whatever it might be. But I think it would be an interesting one to try and bring the guys in that support these guys who, you know, maybe done all right for themselves and they like windsurfing. You know, it doesn't have to be thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands. It can be a couple of thousand, or it could be just one event that you support. And for that, you get picture, you get this, you get, I don't know, whatever, you know, there's
it would be interesting. I don't know. I was sort of thinking if you had like a website or something where you had like almost a leaderboard with like a picture of a guy's sail or woman's sail, and it had the stickers, and it actually showed you how much they were making. So I don't know, like a bit of a, I don't know.
It is a classic, you know, and you see the girls and the guys that do well. I mean, Oda Johanna is a great example. Look at her sail. Look at her sail. She has got more bloody sponsors than the whole tour put together. You know, she's doing well for herself. She's super professional, you know, does well in the freestyle. They obviously don't have many events, but she's doing clinics. She's making YouTube videos. She's here, there, and everywhere. And she has got great support, you know. She's not getting her ass out at every moment to get the spot. You know what I mean? I'm not being rude, but she's not doing it that way. She's doing it in a professional windsurfing results come, you know, way. Again, I'm not dissing anyone who does it any other way. You do whatever you do, however you think you want to do it. That's it. If you can get paid, you do it. That's up to you. You do it how you want. But the way, you know, Oda's doing it, she is making decent money by the looks of the stickers. Like, I know people don't have that amount of stickers on the sale when they're getting like 20 quid each sticker. You know, it's probably good money. And rightly so. She is doing a great job. So there is money out there. There is ways of doing it. There is more ways to skin a cat. You know, you don't have to go down route A, which is get a brand sponsor, do the tour. That's it. There is different ways to do it. Yeah.
And also just things like, you know, I think of all the pro sailors who obviously have a lot to teach, you know, doing things like clinics, you know, or anything like that to teach people. You know, there's a lot of people, there's a bit of an appetite for that, isn't there? I mean, Marc Pare, I don't know, does he do clinics? I mean, if Marc Pare
he's done a few, he enjoys it, he literally has done everything with Pare. I think that's why, and that is why when I speak to him, he's not crying into his cereal bowl this morning, you know. It's a shit news, it's a life-changing thing because things are all moving and you have to then reevaluate what you want to do. Because let's say he decides not to get a sponsor next year. Maybe there's no offers. Does he then ride that or Duotone sales and stuff? Or does he go, I don't want to promote them. They kick me out. But he's used to them. He's helped design them. These are the questions I'm definitely going to be asking him when he's on the podcast, because there is going to be like I say, I think some sort of movement in the industry is not bad. Yes, it's not good. It shows we're in a shit state. It shows that windsurfing at a professional level on the tour sailing is tricky. And, how sustainable is it? How long are we going to last? Are we going to have less events, more events? What is the right way forward? Sometimes what you want is not always the best way. So there is lots of different ways to take it. But that's kind of exciting. Like, windsurfing is never going to die. Windsurfing is a freaking all-time sport. It will never die. Will it get smaller? Maybe. Will it get worse? No, it won't get worse, because windsurfing is always going to be the best. It doesn't matter how many people you've got doing it, how many competitions you have. There is still windsurfing. But I think windsurfing still needs that promotion. It still needs that motivation. It needs that motivation you get from new guys in the sport. You do need that. You need fresh faces. You need fresh energy, which is, again, I'll bring it back to Windsurfing.TV. It's what you try and do. Sometimes we get it wrong. Sometimes we get the tone wrong. But at the same time, the passion is always there. Again, sometimes you just don't deliver it right. You upset a few people because you say this or you don't say that. But that's life. When you look at social media, everyone's upset these days anyway. So fuck it. Yeah.
No, well done. This is actually a good comment here from Max. He's saying, has social media and the free content demonetized smaller professional sports? Yeah, this is interesting, because we are having a bit of almost a saturation of content as well, which devalues the effort that a lot of these pro sailors are putting in. It gets to a point where the value of these things almost goes down. It's all free. It gets pumped at you as well. So that's where the sailors have to also think about, well, there's a saturation of that content. I have to be starting to do something, a little bit different as well. Well, that's where things like the clinics and things like that, or, it's tricky. Like it's certainly tricky, but I've noticed that even with my small YouTube channel, when I first started, I had, quite a few views, and sometimes I still do. But as more and more people have gotten into it, it dilutes a bit too, doesn't it?
Yeah, but
so it's tricky.
That's just how it will be. Like, again, I've always said this with Windsurfing.TV. You've got to look at the views a little bit to see what content people like. You can't just be, oh no, I don't care, that's what I'm going to do. You've got to look at the views and see what people are interested in. But on a certain level, let's say the podcasts, they're never the most viewed things we do. But I get more emails about the podcasts, and thanks for doing it, and I really enjoyed it, and it's like my windsurfing radio, and I have it on in the background, about the podcast probably more than the other videos, even though the other videos get more views. And that, so you've got to think, okay, maybe they're getting less views, but there's more engagement, and the people who listen to it really like it, and they like it more. But there's less people. So it isn't so easy to work that out.
No, sure.
And again, and bringing it back to Pare, it's the same thing. It's like, I know from and speaking to him, he really enjoys doing the trips. When you look at his Iceland video, it's like nearly 20,000 views. And he basically went on a trip with his girlfriend to Iceland on his own, went sailing. They filmed between it. They did an interview with Alfie and Alfie made the video, and that's the video. That's how it is. And that video has probably got his most views that he's put on his own channel. And that probably cost him way less than doing the competition, or way less than doing something else. And you're kind of thinking, okay, the reward for the outgoing, and you got the experience of going somewhere new and having all these new experiences, is kind of mind-blowing. So then you're thinking, okay, so it isn't easy. Like, I quite like the idea. It's nice to have a full tour, but I think, in an ideal world, the tour would have more events close together, so you could smash out some results, but you wouldn't spend like the whole year kind of stringing it all out, because there isn't enough money to live a life like that. You really need to go, okay, I've got a month, bang, 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 like have one in Furta, one in Tenerife, one in, you know, like you go, okay, I've got a month of my life, but I got 3 results, bang. Obviously it doesn't work like that because it's not so easy. You've got to get the events and they got to, it's not, I'm just explaining in an ideal world, that's how you would do it with the type of money that's available.
Yeah. So interesting comments here as well. Mark is certainly the kind of people that influence me buying into new gear. So he definitely had an effect. Yeah. Also, you know, the other thing I was thinking about talking about content and influencing is that video you did where you're rigging up your simmer sail. That's got about what 15,000 plus views or something like that. I think last time I checked,
something like that.
Yeah, and I mean it's a rigging video. Like it's a video of you just rigging up a sail, and I mean that bang for buck. No, but I mean,
no, it's true. It's totally true.
But bang for buck, I mean, there are guys out there that travel halfway around the world with a photographer and video, you know, all sorts of things going on, and get 10,000 views, and you basically smash out a rigging video off the cuff with probably very limited effort in the editing, and
dropping some alpha on that video, man. Yeah, I'm dropping the bomb in that video.
But
it's true. It's
like, yeah, bang for buck.
Totally true. And this is what, again, people can say what they want. Like Windsurfing.TV doesn't make a fortune, but you have to look like, that's why I'm so impressed with Nico Breen. His production content and the level of it is extreme for how big the market is.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
He pisses me off because what he's doing is like, you're like, wow, he's so organized. I don't understand the bloke. I spoke to him quite a bit over the last years and as he was coming up and whatever, and give him some advice and all this shit. But he has just took it to another level. I honestly don't know how he manages to do everything and compete at the World Cup and do all the stuff he's doing. Honestly, I got massive respect for him. Like, because I just know how much it is. Like, I kind of look at videos and go, okay, because what I've realized is exactly what you said. The reward for the effort is not always one for one. You know, it's like Pare goes to Chile, goes and makes a 3-part thing, pays a production crew almost to do this thing, costs him a fortune. You look at the video views, you know, goes to Iceland with his girlfriend, you know, does it differently, probably loads less, smashes out the views. I go down my beach here, do a rigging video, but because it's interesting content or content that people want to see and are interested in, the views are more. Does it mean that people are going to buy that sail? Maybe not. Maybe the Iceland video gives like this image, so that you've got to look at that. It's not just the views, but still, it's definitely worth looking at, like how you can influence. And I think, you know, you said, yes, there's a lot more content. There's still not a lot of windsurfing content on YouTube.
You don't think so?
No.
On YouTube? Really?
Not enough. Not enough to feel saturated. There's a lot on Instagram and this sort of stuff. And I'm like, because I watch a lot of it, it's like, you got to do something a little bit different now to make me, you know, interested in it. Like I'm more interested in spots. Like, again, it's maybe me getting older. I'm interested in spots, you know, certain things, which not just ripping, because ripping is like drugs. I've never done drugs, but for example, like once you've seen someone ripping, then they have to rip harder, and then they have to rip harder, and then they have to do something new, or, you know, like it's like this. As soon as you start seeing like stuff now, which is mind blowing, but you're like seen it before, you're like, yeah, is that it? And you're like, you know, before we'd have had to wait a year for that video, but now it's like every day there's new stuff. So it kind of just, it ends up feeling too easy. And it's warped my brain. I'm sure my brain is warped with windsurfing. And I had a bit of a detox recently to kind of reset myself to go, okay, what is the general level of windsurfing? What do people want to watch? What level are we at? And I've been doing some headcam stuff. I don't know if you've seen it on the other channel, on the Ben Profit channel, which is literally just sailing.
Yeah.
And because of comments, I've done these videos. And again, they're not getting massive views, but like 7,000 views. But it's just everything. So, you know, getting into the water, falling in, getting your rig, because people watch YouTube to learn. I feel that's what I took from it. Anyway, I'm getting on a different topic. This should be about Pare, but anyway, it's an interesting thing. You've got to look at the audience and look what they want, and sometimes it's not what you think they want. Like, they don't always want that epic production, which costs a fortune. Sometimes they want just knowledge. You know, it's like a good website. If a website looks amazing and fancy, but it's not functional, it hasn't got the right information, shit. If you've got a really basic website, but it's got all the information you want and it's well laid out, you'll love the website. It doesn't need to be fancy.
Yeah. But the other thing too is what you talk about audience. You have built an audience, and then they follow you into various things. So, for example, you told me you're doing these clinics in South Africa.
Yeah.
And you've got 3 clinics with 10 people. There's 30 people willing to pay to then profit. Yeah, well, I mean, that's 30 people are going to pay, their hard-earned money to go learn from you. And the only reason they're there is because you've built an audience up.
Yeah, but again, exactly. I mean, that's the whole thing of life, isn't it? You've got to kind of look at what you want to do. Like, I enjoy coaching. I enjoy, like, it's one of the best things apart from sailing itself. I would kind of say, and you see this with dads as well, say things like this, like, teaching my son to do this is the best thing ever. And it is like that. I can imagine. I've only just got a daughter, so we haven't really learned much yet. But, even getting that bit of feedback, and it's like that with the guys and the girls who we get on the clinics. You teach them to forward loop, or you teach them to back loop or wave ride or get their first something, or you give them a tip, which just, you can see maybe they don't get it, but they go, okay, I get it. I haven't got it, but I get it. And it's a fucking cool feeling when you've got someone celebrating their first forward. We made a few videos about it, which we hopefully will do this season as well. But you can feel that energy. There's nothing better than teaching someone their first forward. When they get it, like, just going round, okay. But when they get it, you just can see them going, oh, yes, that's it. I'm in.
Best day ever.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I don't know if I can agree with this. As much as I love every aspect of windsurfing, the sport is just not appropriate anymore.
I disagree.
Appropriate. It's not. Yeah, that's a bit of a hard one to answer. That
I just disagree. I think everyone's got their own place, and there are other sports that have come in, but windsurfing has got better. The gear has got better. You can pick up secondhand gear now, which is epic. Like, epic. You don't need all the new gear. Yes, it's nice, and I think you should be buying new gear because that's what keeps us all in a job in the windsurfing industry. But if you haven't got the budget, you buying secondhand gear frees up the money for the guys that own it to buy new gear. So it is all a big circle. You definitely don't have to buy new gear, but it's bloody nice unwrapping a new board. Exciting. I still get excited when I do that. But the secondhand gear market is so good. There's and clearance stuff as well. And there are some big moves within the industry which are already happening. Simmer, they're dropping prices next year.
Yeah, what's behind that? How do they make that possible? What was?
I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but I'd probably. It'll all become apparent in January. I don't think that we're going to be the only brand doing that. I think there are other few brands as well, but it's obviously going to have to start going a bit more online, basically. Because then you're missing out a chunk, but at the same time, there's ways that they're doing it, which is keeping everyone happy and they're able to do it. So, but again, more on news on that in January. But it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I don't know what the future brings or where we go with windsurfing. What I do know is we've got fucking amazing gear. It's still the best sport in the world by far. Winging is here. Feel free to wing, but no way you're giving up windsurfing if you're into it. It's still that solid feeling. Yeah, every new sport comes along and will take a little bit of its limelight. But after a while, I know some wingers who have already given up.
Oh, really? Yeah, they've had their day.
Yeah, okay. But again, depends on where you're from, depends on your learning curve, depends on conditions, depends on lots of things. I'm not digging it out before you start moaning. I totally agree. Like I said, I've got a wing, I do it, but yeah, it will definitely take some share. But windsurfing is here. You can't get that fin feeling from the wing. You can't get that rail feeling. You can't get that drive off the bottom turn or the jibe or the
Yeah. But this is just so familiar to the early 2000s. You know, I remember working in a windsurf shop back then, and we had a salesman from I think it was Nash or whoever it was. You know, it was the year 2000 from memory. He came in, said, "All right, guys, this is a thing that's you know, it's all the rage, kite surfing." But the store owner said to me, "Paul, you've got to go to the river and get a kite lesson." And I went there and I was dragging through the river with the bloody kite, feeling like I was going to kill myself. It was one of those 2-line things.
Yeah, I nearly killed myself.
And and within 12 months, everyone was saying that's it. It's the end of windsurfing. Windsurfing's dead. Remember when windsurfing is cancelled? That's what they said. They said windsurfing's dead. No, who's going to windsurf anymore? And here we are, 2023. Kite surfing, it hit its peak. I feel like it's come down a bit, and windsurfing is still around. And I feel like the same thing. It's history repeating itself a little bit with this wing surf. I mean, it might go in a slightly different direction, but anyone who says that windsurfing's dead because of winging, I don't buy it.
No,
it's not the same. It's not the same.
But also it's putting people on the water, and within reason. Again, maybe Duotone's a bit different with the different classifications, but a lot of the windsurfing brands do have wings. It's a bit like when socks come out, you know, and it does help keep things going. So like I say, we will see what happens with the market, but I think we've definitely got a hardcore core support again, which are hard to break. They've come through to kiting. Some of them have come back from kiting. Now they're maybe teased a bit to winging, but they're going to come back. It's like it's the one in the middle, you know, the solid, which is not going to change.
It's kind of interesting too how this will play out, because how many different water wind sports can you develop? You know, okay, we've got windsurfing, kiting, now this wing foiling. I mean, can you sort of imagine something else other than those things? Maybe, but
you know what? I'm not even going to go there, because I remember when freestyle first came out, and I was like, I was a freestyle. I was like, there's the Spock, we've got the grubby, we've got the flacker. I mean, we've been upwind, downwind, we've done that. Like, what else can they do? And then Ricardo comes in, starts landing this funnel with the backwinded sail. And then they did all these things. And I'm like, yeah, but now what can they do? And then he does the air, like this air scope shit. And they like, what the hell? So like every time you think, oh, they can't do anything else, there might be some combo thing that's a foil, but then it transforms into a fin. And then you know what I mean?
That's true. You're right. I mean, who knows? But it does feel like a little bit like you're getting to a point where you're maximizing all the different technologies and so forth. But but interesting. I just think it'll eventually, things will play out and people will start to understand where these sports all fit in. I think a lot of people are underestimating windsurfing a little bit, especially the ones who don't windsurf. You know, I see comments sometimes on social media by kiters, and I'll say, "Oh, windsurfing," you know, make a bit of fun of it. But I know, I can tell from the way they comment, they've never actually tried it. They don't actually understand it.
Yeah.
You know, they don't quite, And I think over time, if people try these different things, everything will just slot into place. People will start to understand, oh, hold on a second, this windsurfing actually in cross-off conditions or this or that or whatever, you can 5 knots. Can you kite or wing in 5 knots?
Well, every time I float and ride, like it depends what you call float and ride, but the kiters are a disaster. They're killing me. They're killing me. And they go deeper.
But I'm not just even talking about waves. I'm just like on a flat lake or flat water.
Oh, okay,
can you wing foil or can you kite in 5 knots?
Yeah.
Well, you can't. I think the biggest. Well, you can in windsurfing. So that's already a huge advantage as far as I can tell. But anyway,
well, interestingly, we're going to speak to Mark about this when he comes in. But you know, he did a bit of winging for a bit, and he'll tell you the story. But he literally went, "No, putting that in the car. This is going to be the death. This is going to hurt us." He could already see where it was going.
But did he enjoy it?
No, he's like, it's not for me. Like he's quite good at it. He picks up stuff quick. He does a bit of foil surfing as well and whatever. But maybe. Well, we're going to get his story on that, but I'm sure we're going to get quite an interesting one. I won't dish all the details. Sarah Jackson has give us some budgets here.
Oh.
Budget to the tour properly, comfortably, without working and unsponsored. 4-part comments. Very efficient, Sarah Jackson. She works for Duotone. Mm-hmm. Don't hate her in the comments. One, for Euro events is around 1.5 to 2,000 per event. By the time you have flights, excess baggage, accommodation, transport, blah, blah, blah. Pacific events for a Euro rider is around 4K. Part number two is outside events, cost of living, traveling has become more expensive. So monthly cost is around 2K a month. And then equipment, market value, 3K per board, 1K per sail, 7K per mast, 1K. This is racing by the looks of it. 3 boards, 6 sails, 10 masts, 3 booms, 25K plus fins, extensions, etc. Total, she reckons 50 to 60K. You could do it. But but that, I would say, is you're just doing it. Like people earn that and don't have to do all that stuff. And that's just enough. You know what I mean? Like the way the world is right now. So I think you could probably double it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, maybe people are going to laugh at me, but you know what I mean? Like if you're earning double that, I think you would have then the normal life, because if it's going to cost you that. When you're doing all the trips and doing, that's not including trips to go and do sponsorship stuff and training and.
No. Well, I mean, it's 50 to 60. You take 25 out of that just for gear, and you're left with 35. And then you got to travel. Then you got to do accommodation.
Yeah, I think that's a minimum.
Yeah, I mean, it's
salary is minimum around 100K plus salary. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, and that's the thing. It depends on. Don't get me wrong. For an 18-year-old kid, 23-year-old kid, whatever, you're sleeping on floors. I mean, I've done it. And that's the thing. I did see a few comments a few years ago where people were talking about doing the tour, they don't get paid enough and not enough prize money. I remember when I first did my tour events, it really was. I was doing it just to get a result. I didn't give a shit about the prize money, didn't give a shit about the sponsorship. I was working and saving up to do the tour event to try and do well, Mm-hmm. And maybe the idea of getting sponsored, but it wasn't really about that. It was about trying to get the result to do it. So when you are young, you can sacrifice so much more. But as soon as you're getting into your 30s, I mean, everyone matures differently. I matured very late. I kind of matured around 40, I think, because I was getting those urges to have a base, to have a house, to have all these things that, just coming up to 40. Most people, I think, get them, I've heard, I don't know because I can't live in that world, around 30. So I think I was 10 years late. And some people getting them at 20. Everyone has these different levels of where they are. I was definitely late, and I didn't understand it. I'm like, what's wrong with all you weirdos? Let's just travel around the world, living the dream. But what are you going to do, Ben? I have no clue. But yeah, then when I got to that point, it was like some switch went off in my head. I was like, okay, I need to have a base. I need to have a base now. It's kind of mad.
This would be a good one. Can you get the head honcho of Duotone onto the show? Can you make it happen, Ben?
Probably, but I don't know what he would say. I think, if you listen to the beginning of the podcast, I'm pretty sure he would say that. And you're going to be left going, all right. We can then talk to him about the market and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I actually said to Mr. Paul Van Bellen earlier, maybe we should try and get at least a statement or some sort of chat. But, yeah, no reason why we couldn't get him on. Or we could get, some of the other industry members on there, whoever wants to come on. The podcast is super open for anyone who wants to come on. I was saying to Paul earlier, it's for me, I would do these talks anyway. What I'm telling you, me and Paul would probably have a chat anyway. That's how this podcast started. We were chatting, we were talking about stuff, and it was why don't we just do it live. And if anyone wants to tune in, they can tune in. If they don't, they don't. It's totally up to them. Like, you know, it's more that there isn't anything out there which is like discussing putting a, you know, there's obviously social media and stuff like that. But I think it's sometimes nice to get a bit of insight for us to maybe do a bit of work, which obviously we haven't done that much work for this one, but we did. We both spoke to Mark, so I kind of know roughly what's happening. And I've got a little bit of insight from doing the tour and being a commentator and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, yeah, it's just us having a chat. What can I say?
I think there's enough people that are interested. What do you think of this? This is an interesting topic too. Do you think Duotone might go direct? And this is not just directed at Duotone, but just the future of the industry and the brands and everything. How much of this, all these brands are going to just go online?
I think my gut feeling and inside knowledge is yes. You know, there's no point in messing around here. It's going to happen at some point. Could be sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Like we'll see. You're going to see that. You see it in all the other industries. Just look. I mean, look at biking. Look at the leading ones, Canyon, and these type of guys that have done it. The problem is, and the biggest problem is for windsurfing, and this is why we're having struggles at the moment, is we need people on the ground motivating. You know, if you've got that shop owner at your local beach, he's motivated by selling kit, by teaching people to windsurf, because then become windsurfers, they buy equipment, blah, blah, blah. As soon as you lose this, it is a bit of a shame. But the problem is people want cheaper prices. The problem is all the materials have gone up. Everything's gone up. But there has been stuff happening now, I think in China and wherever, that things have dropped, which is why they can offer lower prices now. They went up and there has been a bit of a drop back. That's what Simmer tells me. So they're trying to offer that back to the customer. That's their feeling with it for next year without saying too much. But they don't want to be a budget brand where they're just kicking out shit left, right and center, which is rubbish. That's not going to happen. You know, it's not going to be that, but they want to offer some lower prices, which they think they can do. Like, again, you will probably see that from other brands. Again, I don't know for Duotone specifically, but if you look at the websites and you look at the way they're doing it, and you can already see things being put in position. You know, that's not inside information. That's just using your head, looking at how things are getting set up online. And you think, oh, that looks already red, you know.
Yeah,
it's not rocket science.
It's going to be tricky for some brands, because if you've got a brand that distributes purely through a retail channel, and then you've got a so-called competitor that's just gone online, and all of a sudden they can drop their prices by 20% or whatever it is, you know, on the savings of that cutting out the shop, then that first brand has got a tough decision to make, haven't they? They're like, well, I want to support the shop because that, you know, obviously gets more people interested, but my competitor is selling it X amount less, and I've got to compete with that too. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, but you've also had over the years, because there's been more brands and things popping up, and the way the internet's been, you've had a lot of, no disrespect meant by this, I hope no one takes offense, but like garage importers, you know, where let's say in Australia you might have a guy with a big garage and he's the local whatever, you know, and you might buy it direct from him. So and then that, you know, back in the day there would have been an importer in Australia and he would have distributed to all the shops, and then the shops would have sold his stuff. So there's too many chains. And then I think what I've seen recently is there's a guy who's an importer, but it's not a massive importer. He's just a guy with a few friends and a good community around him that goes, you know what, I want to become the importer of this. And then with that friend group, it's actually a decent amount of sales that they're doing. But then the local shop obviously wouldn't stock off him. He would be the importer for another brand, because there's so many brands and so little shops that it kind of makes sense to have like these individual kind of things happening. So I think what you will see, again, it's not rocket science. I'm not giving the game away here, but you will see influential people in these areas being that type of person, and then the sales will come from online, I would guess. You know, that's what you see in other brands. You see some of the leading ones in other brands. That's how they're doing it. you know, and it is cutting costs. But again, the detriment will be to the teaching of windsurfing, and that's what needs to get looked after, I think. It's just see how it goes.
There are so many comments coming through. I apologize that I can't get through them all, but it's obviously gotten people interested, this whole discussion. Where are we here? Oh, we got another beer money. Peter Schmidt saying he paid some beer money to you. So,
hey,
yeah, it's what's that? Maybe maybe windsurfing needs a really big social media star getting into windsurfing. Yeah, well, like it's
actually,
you've got someone there behind the scenes. You're going to bring in.
Seconds.
Oh, this is an interesting. Well, Ben's looking for that. This is Robert says, no, I don't believe winging will help a lot. People can only spend their money once. They have all spent money on SUP. Now they spend money on winging, windsurfing equipment. Yeah, it's a fair point, Robert. I guess I'm trying to think that maybe there'll be some kind of progression. People might start winging and then realize in certain conditions you'd be better off windsurfing, and some of them might drift over. But you're right as well. People don't have unlimited funds. What do we got here?
Direct delivery from Denmark. So cheers, Anna.
Oh, okay. That was a
direct delivery. They skipped the money business and just sent me beer.
Oh, okay. I thought that was going to be your new sponsor or something. Okay.
Well, that would be good. I've got any contacts for a beer sponsor. I mean, they do a beer called Sagres. I live in Sagres. I mean, that's like the perfect sponsor.
There's a few comments here about fishing. Fishing on social media is big. It is a big thing, fishing, isn't it?
Massive.
It pops up a lot. God, fishing, people are nuts.
I'm gonna tell you. So, like I said, Justin's made this video. I haven't seen it yet. He's just sent me the footage. But I'm gonna do a video how me getting into windsurf fishing. Basically, Justin have an operation on his shoulder, so he's trying to figure some things that he doesn't have to do, which are that strenuous. I'm not sure fishing is good for the shoulder, but anyway. I was saying to him, and as he was explaining to me, I was like, yeah. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? Fishing is massive. How ironic would it be that it could be my biggest video? You know what I mean? Let's say you go out on a windsurfer, catch some tuna or something.
Oh, yeah.
And I could have just imagined it now. Like, I do all these videos, you do all this epic stuff, you put in world champions, you do this, and then you go fishing, and then it ends up being your most watched video. It would not surprise me. Anyone been windsurf fishing? Let me know in the comments. Email me. I want some alpha information from you guys. I'm definitely going to give it a go. That's for sure. But I want to catch a big fish.
The Surf Guru. I don't think windsurfing is dead. Not at all for me. But it has reached its peak after the 90s, right? So what's the major difference with when the popularity dropped more? Do you understand the question?
Sorry, I was.
Yeah, no, I'm still. It's saying I don't think windsurfing is dead, but it has reached its peak after the 90s, right? So what's the major difference with when the popularity?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That makes sense. It was more popular in the 80s, 90s. Yes, totally. But there is a lot more sports on offer now. There's just lots more going on. There's dilution in the windsurfing was, like Guy Cribbs said the other day, it was the sport. It was like the game changer, the one that was like, cancelled, whatever. It was pretty impressive. It was like, we're never going to be as big as that. I've got no problem with that. But what I've seen this year, and obviously I see all the videos I'm sent, I watch a lot of windsurfing content, I've commentated on all the World Cups. What I have seen, which has been a very interesting thing to try and work out, because I've seen some of the best racing I've seen on the World Tour, but that doesn't, to me, translate into windsurfing sales. I honestly think it's the opposite, which is kind of crazy because it has been some of the best racing. But is it killing the fin motivation from the guys at home? Local racing, local slalom racing has definitely took a nosedive since the foiling has come out. You've lost people. Yes, people are crossing over to foil. Yes, people are loving foil, but definitely not everyone. And there has been a drop off And I definitely think that's killed a bit of the sales. And then you've also got all these pro riders who there's a lot of them now, even semi-pro, pro riders who have got a lot of kit for sale and then foils for sale. And, you know, yes, it's going to take time to change over. Like you've got the new breed coming through, the IQ foils and all these guys, and they will come into it. But yeah, windsurf is not dead. And like I said, it's going to be an interesting year. I think we wrap it up because I just saw, unless you've got a lot more comments to go through.
Oh, there's actually
million.
There's heaps of comments. Anyway,
Chris Yates said, "Is this the short episode you talked about?"
I know we were like, oh, we're just gonna remember. I remember
I said 20 minutes. I said 20 minutes.
We were on the phone about 20 minutes. Here we are, an hour and 45. But we couldn't really stop because the comments just kept going through, and people seem to be listening. So anyway, apologies again if we went too long. Ben's fault. My fault as well.
Daniel Hayden did fishing windsurfing, if I remember correctly. Yeah, fishing windsurfing it's going to be the new thing.
It's going to be the new craze, you reckon?
Eric says, what did Eric say? Eric says, I did a lot of time fishing behind a spinner with a big board. It's nice fun. Did you catch anything? What's the biggest fish you've caught? I'm going to start the Windsurfing.TV, like, how big was your fish? Start like going to start a what you call it, like a leaderboard. We've sacked off the quiz. Now we've got like, how big was your fish?
I like it. Alex Mussolini talking about pro windsurfers that have come and kind of gone, I guess. You remember when I said some years ago that pro windsurfing was dying and how everybody took their hands to their heads?
Yeah, but
wow.
Like I said, we know, you know, we know it's tricky. It's tricky. There isn't as much money in it, but this doesn't mean, and this is also the key, windsurfing doesn't need to be funded by the brands and solely the brands. And again, it's easy to say this type of stuff. It's not so easy to do it, but outside type of sponsors coming in but why would they come in? That's the question. Like, who would support it? You know, there needs to be reasoning behind it. It's visually an amazing sport. You can get loads of cool coverage for your brand, but it depends what your brand is, depends who wants to use it. But that's the money you've got to tap into, to just keep tapping off the brands all the time, just only the brands. It's a lot of stress on that, you know, for a sport which is incredible but hasn't got a massive, you know, massive group. I say, but the good thing with windsurfing, it has a lot of equipment, so people have to buy it. It's not like football where you buy a football. You know, if football had the same amount of people as windsurfing, it would be nothing. You know, it wouldn't. No one would be sponsored. No one would have a team. You know, whatever. But windsurfing, you know, there is, you know, it's not a cheap sport. You know, you're not getting into windsurfing if you're totally poor and broke and can't get the rent together. You're not going windsurfing. You know, we got to be realistic with that. You've got to have some, you know, money. That's for sure. You've got to have transport. You've got to, you know, there's lots of things that you need to go windsurfing. So it does kind of bring in a higher, well, I wanted to put the right word in there, but what's the demographic?
Yeah. Guys, I am so sorry we can't get through all the comments, but what do you think, Benny? Should we wrap it up for today?
Wrap it up. So just to finish it, we will be getting Pare in. We're going to hit him with the questions. We're going to find out what his plan is. Does he have a plan? Where's he going for the winter? We'll have just a normal chat with him. But yeah, I guess if you want to sponsor Marc Pare, I'm pretty sure he's ready for an email right now, because that could be cool, like a private sponsored run next year with no official sponsors or something like this. Imagine that would be quite cool, wouldn't it?
And I did see a comment there from someone who has just tuned in, just wondering what happened. But basically, we got told today that Marc Pare was no longer going to be with Duotone. And obviously, we're keen to find out where he ends up. So anyway, and we'll have Marc Pare on very soon. So I guess we can chat more about him with him.
So Neil saying maybe someone asked already. Is that what it says? Maybe someone asked already, but what kind of money are we talking about? What does a Marc Pare season cost? Again, it depends if you want to sponsor the whole season, you want to sponsor the equipment. Yeah, there's always different levels to that. what would I say is a good sponsorship these days? Maybe you guys can guess at home. I don't like always saying, because I probably have more inside information, and people don't always like me saying what money is. I mean, it's difficult. It is difficult because, and this could be the case. Let's put it this way. It's happened with Ricardo before. So there was a point where Ricardo couldn't get a sponsor. A lot of people heard that. I just see in the comments coming in. It's not always officially exactly like that. He could have got a sponsor, but they weren't going to pay him what he thought he was worth. So, and there's always a balance between, you know, way too little and how much you want, and getting in the middle. So of course, Marc Pare could get a sponsor tomorrow. It just depends on the level of that sponsorship. He could have probably stayed on Duotone, you know, for gear only and a bit of money probably, but he's not going to do that, because then you're just totally underselling yourself. You know you're worth more than that, but then you have to find the balance in the market. What is the market prepared to pay? So that is what it's going to come down to. What does it actually cost to do a whole year? Without normal living costs, it's probably not far in the region of, actually, if you just had to do the events, what is there, 5, 6 events, 25 grand to do the events.
And that's doing it kind of budget. I'm trying to give like a realistic low balling, you know, where does the base start? Because obviously you're not gonna sponsor everything for 25 grand. It's not gonna work. We worked out before 50 would be a decent, happy, most people would be bloody happy with 50 if they got that, you know, but that's including the gear. So when you take the gear out, it's not actually that much. Like, how do you live? So, you know, you can imagine if those are the figures, 25, 50, 75, 100, it's anywhere in there, you depending on what other income you've got coming in. But even 10, you know, 10 would give something. You're not going to do much with 10, but it's better than nothing. So there's 5 grand, you know, there's sponsorship available for these guys. Again, I'm not putting words in their mouths. Everyone's got their own levels. Everyone's got their own prices, which they would do stuff for. In every market in the world, that's the case. You know, I want to use you for drone flying, and I say to you, do you want to come to some shithole and film some like pigs? You're going to go, well, how much you paying? You're like, oh, it's just 100 a day, and you're like, no, piss off, that sounds shit. But if I say, do you want to come to Maui? We're going to be staying for a month in this place. You're going to all expenses paid, but we're going to pay you nothing. You might go, you know what, I've always wanted to go to Maui, you know, I don't mind doing it for that. Or you might think, you know what, I've been traveling the world, like doing all this stuff for ages, because that's what happens when you do it more and more. You go, you know what, no, I'm not doing it for that. You know, I'm worth this much a day. That's my price plus expenses. And again, everyone's situation is different, and it does change. So again, we're going to see what happens. We're going to speak to Marc, but that is it for the podcast today. Thank you everyone for tuning in. A lot longer than we thought, like usual. Again, like I said, a lot of speculation. I hope it's cleared a few things up. The Marc Pare interview or podcast, whatever it ends up being, will obviously clear up a bit more, and it should be pretty interesting. So stay tuned to the channel. Massive thanks to Mr. Van Bellen for tuning in, and we'll see you for the next one. See you guys.
It's that time of the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, it's Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear tips plus the world's best quiz. Cogs, PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.